Good afternoon, Jude. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday.
It's great to be here with you today in our second podcast. The topic is going to be starting at the beginning. Uh, Many people already employed, many people looking for a job don't think about the basic foundations to finding a job. And we're going to talk about that today with everyone starting from the beginning, what building blocks are required so they become the most appealing candidate if they're looking for a job. And if you're one of those people that's watching that is trying to hire people, we're going to give you some tips as well. So from there, I think the best way to go from here, Jude, is for you to just kind of start with the building blocks. Everybody has to remember this is a process of helping you get to where you want to go. So everything can always seem daunting or a challenge. Everything can seem like something that's not possible. We're going to break it down so you can understand why everything is possible. And in doing so, it's important to realize there's a lot of self-reflection that has to take place here. So from there, Jude, I'll let you take over and start with the first building block. And
Yeah,
thanks a lot for joining me today.
yeah, definitely. A much better time than last time. I don't have my son crawling across the floor because we are in this new world of working wherever we are. So now you know I'm a real person on this side, right?
That's
Nothing
right.
says real like your kids bouncing around in the background. But yeah, I really love your opening on this one because I think it's great to take a moment and get a little vulnerable in this space because there are so many people, whether you are a recruiter, hiring manager, business, whatever, or whether you're on the other side of it, you're the job seeker. We're in that same space where we're feeling the frustration, we're feeling the urgency and the pressure of meeting the demands of what we need for our lives and for our business. So if we can come together and find a way to connect and build on the skills, whether it's on the recruiter side or the job seeker, build on those skills and put you in the place of being the absolute best version of yourself. So I want to preface today by saying don't beat yourself up on your job seeking journey, whether you are recreating version 1, 2, 3, or 100 of yourself, or this is your first job seeking journey and you're trying to figure it out. You're personally invited to mess up a few times, redraft, redesign yourself with the invitation that comes the opportunity to see it as a self-discovery journey, right? We're crafting ourselves every single day and becoming the most authentic versions of ourselves. So it is a journey. Don't feel bad if you bombed that interview. It is just information. I'm telling you right now. So, and I'm getting a little off track, but I want to say this here. A lot of times people come to me feeling so burdened by rejection from the interview. And I will tell you, rejection can be a good thing. It doesn't feel good, but it is I would say is it's information. So get rejection out of your mind and realize by the law of the universe, nothing can stay the same forever, right? So there's going to be, in other words, discomfort is necessary, but it's temporary. And you're going to feel the rejection, see it as a game, and realize that you are player one in the game of your life. So can no one can do it for you. You're going to have to be in a state of uncomfortableness for a while. But it's data and it's feedback. All it's telling you is that there needs to be a pivot in your direction, but it doesn't mean you don't belong. So I wanted to say that because this week has been a lot of discussion coming in from people about that feeling of rejection. All right. So now that I've kind of put that out there, let's talk about the basics of things that might actually be getting you into the spot of rejection. And we're just going to start with 101 kind of direction of things. And that is the way that you are showing up and presenting yourself either on the phone with that phone screen, on the camera with that number one first interview, or you've made it to being in person with the hiring managers and with the business that you're seeking the job with. And that is going to require you to practice over and over again how you're showing up and watching yourself do that. I recommend turning on that camera or having a friend sit on the other side and watch and give you direction and being receptive to receiving that direction. So one way that this works along my journey, you can see if it works for you as well, but hit that camera. We're all influencers in some area of our life, right? So we don't mind being in front of the camera. Hit record and go over the questions that are, would either be asked in the interview, or you can pull 10, 20, 30 questions online that are basic questions that that are generally asked, and practice them. Practice being able to demonstrate your skills.
I think what you're touching on there is important in that when you sit down for an interview, and I think our listeners need to remember, traditionally when we are looking for candidates for a job, on average, we submit 10 people that we believe are A candidates for one person to be accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives you an insight to going through the interview process, because we might think that somebody is an A candidate and they immediately get rejected by the client. We might think somebody's an A candidate and they show up for the interview and the first thing they say is, yeah, I really want to move to Florida for this job because I want to retire. That's not going to work.
Right.
I'm really interested in a job at this Italian restaurant. What's your favorite pasta? Well, I'm gluten intolerant. I can't eat pasta. Those types of things automatically get people kicked out. And you had a great conversation with them. You coached them correctly, and they go down a rabbit hole and they become a candidate that can't work. So
Yeah.
when you talk about the questions, it's very important that our candidates think about how are they going to answer that the employer or the hiring manager hears somebody that's inspired to come and work for them. I'm really excited about taking this position in Florida. I'm tired of living in the snow. I've got another 25 years to work. I've been a general manager in this position, and I am really excited about being able to transfer my skills where it's been much more challenging, much more difficult for a lot of different reasons that you touch on. And I'd like to come down and I'd like to spend the next 20 years of my life working in Florida. Well, they didn't hear retirement, but you definitely are tired of the snow. But you can make them aware of the fact that you're excited about continuing your career. So you got to think about when you're in front of that camera and being an influencer, that you're answering the questions in a way that are genuine, but most importantly, applicable to the job and keep you as a candidate on that interviewer's list. They're not putting a
Mm-hmm.
line through your name. So I think that what you touched on there is extremely important. And if we're going to go down that path here for a few minutes, Jude, what is it that people need to think about in terms of themselves and their strengths and their weaknesses when they're either reaching for a job or going for a job that might be a lateral job and they're just burnt out, even though they're in their position, but they just don't want to do what they're doing anymore? I mean, how do you help people, or how should people think about a way to position themselves to be a candidate for that job?
Yeah, absolutely. And so many people are in this position, especially post-COVID, where the whole world has shifted. They're in a position of completely recreating whether they decided to or they were pushed out of a job. So how do you find that happy medium, that zone of proximal development where we're striving to go into a new skill set? We're going to take what we have with us, but we're not quite ready. And that is where you need to start designing your own brand. We hear this a lot, right? We hear about companies, branding companies, and now you need to think of that in terms of branding yourself. Never mind that you don't have all the skills there on that job description. you can throw that out the window, because what you're doing is you're focusing on what you can bring or what you can develop.
That's a
So,
great point. That's a great
mhm,
point. So let's dive on that a little bit. So I'm in a position and I'm looking for an opportunity because I'm not finding it internally in my company. And I and the company I'm working for. And I know that I have the capability to go from an assistant general manager to a manager, whatever the case might be. You want to brand yourself when you say that. How do you brand yourself for that interview, Jude? Because you don't have maybe those applicable skills in real life, but you've got them in some level of practice. Are you going to look at what the company needs? Are you going to look at what the company's lacking? And if that's the case, how are you going to be able to go about doing that, Jude?
yeah. What the company needs and what the company is lacking is actually the technical piece of how you're going to connect that. What you need to start with first is really getting into your authentic skill set, what you absolutely know you can do with your eyes closed, and what you can do if you had to teach it. So this is where I say get out your whiteboard and start putting down everything that you're aspiring to do, all of your skills, your objectives. Start getting your whiteboard out and designing your job seeking journey and connecting all the dots there. So pull out at least 5 skills that you can back up 100%, you have references for, and you have perfect examples for. Okay. Get those 5 skills that brand who you are and why you're special and unique above everybody else. Now, the next piece that you were talking about, where the company's issue or concern, their problem, that's where you're making the connection. Even if I am underqualified for this position, what I'm doing is I'm showing them how they can pivot their way of thinking and give me a chance, because I have the ambition for it and I have the potential for it.
So
So,
how so just to touch on that, and I don't want to jump over the top here, but so how do I find out what's going on in that company where I might be able to given a real world example, I'm really good at dispute resolution. I've worked well with my employees. How am I going to find out if that's even applicable for there? Where do I look?
okay. Oh, what a great question. Yes, there's there's a lot of things that you can do that a lot of people don't. And I can tell right away when I'm interviewing somebody when they have done this. So the first thing is when someone contacts you, let's assume that someone reached out to you, right? And you're listening, they're pitching the job to you. I want you to start thinking in terms of what's the problem here. I'm going to jot that down. Okay, they're telling me that I'm hearing that there's the previous person just couldn't meet deadlines. There's an issue with urgency. There's an issue with whatever it is. You're going to get all of the issues and concerns, because what you're going to do is you're going to become a problem solver. That's how you sell yourself.
That's
Now,
a great way to think about it right there. Great way
yeah.
to think about it.
And the other is going to be you're going to start going. You're going to go where people like to share the problems. So where's that? That's going to be on Glassdoor with reviews. That's going to be a Google reviews, wherever employees have left that business and they're going to give a review. Now, most of the time it's filled with negativity. So that's not why we're going there. We're just going there to look for a pattern and see what the problems were. If I can see this very clear pattern with this one department in the communication, well, how can my previous skill set solve that issue for them? Because I can guarantee that's why you're sitting there today, is because that problem was linked to a major issue there, which has resulted in attrition, which is a big money problem for them, right? You're saving them money. So you see where I'm going here? I'm connecting my previous skill set, never mind what the advanced skill set is and whether I have that or not. I'm focusing on what I have now and what I can solve for their problem.
You're
And
bringing your skills to their problem and making it hard for that person that's interviewing you not to believe that you're capable of that job.
that's exactly it. And capable of the job. Exactly. You want to paint that picture. This is a paint by numbers. You're creating a masterpiece for them.
That's
And
perfect.
yes. And the other piece is go to the job posting on their objective or on their qualified skills set. Never mind that you have every single one of those. Okay. Those are must, unless this is like a job that requires a certain accreditation, right? I mean, you're in a medical professional or something like that. That's a different story. But most of the time, those skills and qualifications, they're generally like to have. So they're going to try to weed out and see if they can get all of those first. So go through and see what those objectives are. Okay, they need somebody that has this. They need somebody that has this. They need somebody that has this. What did I do in my previous position that directly connects to that problem that they have? So let's recap this real quick. So you're going to go through you're going to review the interview that you had on that phone screen or whomever you had spoken to. You might have just called the company up and asked them about the job. You're going to try to capture those problems. The next thing you're going to do is look at those reviews, see if you can find problems that you can make solutions to. You're going to build a bridge here. And then the next thing is you're going to get out that job description and see what those requirements were, because those are going to be directly related to the problems. Now, are you building the bridge of how you're going to make a connection with your current skill set and what you've accomplished to what you can do for them?
That's perfect. That's a great way to close this today, Jude. I think it's really important, and you mentioned it because you talked about a storyboard or a vision board, I think was what you called it. But people have to understand and acknowledge where they are versus where they want to be.
Mm-hmm.
And what you've gone through today is you've given people the ability to understand if you want to get somewhere, it requires a bridge of your skills versus on the other side of the bridge, their needs. You've got to get to them. They're not coming to you because it's their company and it's their position that they're trying to fill.
Mm-hmm.
So when you think about being aspirational versus realistic, take that honest self-assessment, understand where you are versus where you'd like to be, and utilize what skills you've got to get where you want to be versus staying where you are. And what we've done today is we've given you at least a lens into the beginning of that. Over the coming weeks, we'll continue on this continuum, and that continuum in the end is going to be a great story that a lot of you are going to share with respect to how what we have been sharing with you, you've gotten yourself a new job. So with that, anything else you want to add, Jude?
Yeah, in terms of seeing yourself in that job, start practicing the visualization of seeing, being, realizing yourself in that position, because it realigns you with where you're going. Take 5 minutes every single morning. Start visualizing yourself in front of that interview. Start realizing yourself in that position and start changing the way that it completely shifts your attitude and prepares you for that presentation that you're going to have with your new potential employer.
Great points, great closing. Thanks a lot, Jude. It's been a wonderful time talking to you today. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and happy birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right. You have yourself a great weekend.
All right, bye.
Bye-bye.